Michael Turner never imagined his life would spiral into a world of lies and betrayal. For years, he had lived quietly with his son, building a life around love, trust, and routine. Mornings were peaceful, reading stories, sharing breakfast, and walking to the small park near their apartment. Evenings were filled with laughter, bedtime stories, and quiet talks about courage and honesty. He believed he knew everything about his world, about his wife, Sarah, and the life they had built together. But life has a way of surprising even the most careful man. One morning, Michael noticed something unusual. Sarah was acting differently. She moved quickly, her face tense, her hands shaking as she packed a small bag. It wasn't normal. There were small, subtle signs, her hurried glances toward the door, the way she tried to hide her phone, and the nervous energy in her voice. Michael's heart sank. Something was wrong, and instinct told him that he needed to know the truth. So, he made a decision. Instead of confronting her immediately, he followed her. Quietly, carefully, he trailed her through the city streets, keeping a safe distance. He watched as she entered a small cafe, a place they had never visited together. There, she met a man Michael did not recognize. They spoke in low voices, exchanged a folded envelope, and the realization hit Michael like a shockwave: his wife had been hiding something serious. This was more than a simple secret. It was a betrayal, a hidden life that threatened everything he held dear. Michael didn't confront them that day. Instead, he returned home and began a careful observation. He needed facts, evidence, a complete understanding of what had been happening behind his back. Every call Sarah made, every trip she took, every unexplained delay became a clue. He began documenting details, noting patterns, and keeping silent while the pieces slowly came together. He was no longer just a husband or a father, he was a detective, quietly building a case to protect his family. At the same time, Michael never let his son feel the tension. Even as he pieced together the truth, he remained present and loving. They continued their routines, morning stories, evening games, and shared laughter. These moments were sacred, a reminder of why Michael needed to approach this carefully. It wasn't just about exposing betrayal. It was about protecting his child, preserving innocence, and reclaiming a life that had been threatened. The audience immediately connects to this emotional core, feeling both suspense and love in equal measure. Days turned into weeks, and Michael's observation revealed patterns. Sarah had secret meetings, whispered phone calls, and subtle changes in her daily routine that no longer went unnoticed. Richard, the man Michael had seen with Sarah, became more visible in his mind as a manipulator. Charming, calculating, and dangerous. Michael noticed small signs of nervousness under his smooth exterior, a trembling hand, repeated words, tiny hesitations. These small details became evidence, confirming what Michael had feared all along. Michael also noticed the subtle signs among Sarah's allies. Friends who had once seemed loyal began to falter, showing hesitancy in conversations or guilt in small gestures. Some had aided her unknowingly, others had actively protected her secrets. Michael catalogued everything, understanding that even the smallest slip could become a turning point. Every nervous glance, every slip of the tongue, every unguarded reaction added to the momentum of exposure. To test Sarah and Richard, Michael introduced small but strategic remarks in conversation. He casually mentioned facts that only someone deeply involved would recognize. He watched their reactions carefully. Sarah's smile faltered, her voice grew tight, and she glanced nervously at Richard for reassurance. Richard's attempt to maintain composure cracked under the pressure. These reactions were subtle, but Michael knew they revealed the truth. His patience was paying off, and the audience felt the suspense rise with each gesture, each hesitation, each glance. Michael also began arranging situations where the manipulator's lies could no longer hide. Casual gatherings, routine errands, and social interactions became opportunities to observe reactions. He would mention small inconsistencies, lightly reference secret details, and note responses. Every slip from Sarah or Richard strengthened his case. Allies, caught in the web of truth, either faltered or revealed knowledge they could no longer hide. Michael's careful, methodical approach created suspense that was cinematic. Viewers or readers could almost feel the tension in the air. Amid this strategic observation, Michael remained deeply connected to his son. Even when his mind raced with plans, evidence, and strategies, he never allowed his child to sense the storm. Playtime, bedtime stories, and conversations about courage and integrity reinforced the life he wanted to restore. The audience feels this emotional balance, tension and suspense interwoven with warmth, love, and human connection. It's not just a story about betrayal, it's about resilience and protection. Weeks of careful observation gave Michael a clear plan. He was no longer reacting, he was orchestrating. He tested Sarah and Richard repeatedly, letting small pieces of truth surface in ways they could not control. Sarah's nervous glances became more frequent, her explanations faltered, and her laughter sometimes turned into panic. Richard tried to assert authority, but Michael's calm precision left him powerless. Allies who had once hidden secrets began revealing truths, whether intentionally or accidentally. Every reaction was a confirmation that the web of deception was unraveling. The first major breakthrough came when Michael confronted a minor ally. He asked casual questions, subtly guiding the conversation. The ally, nervous and unsure, admitted knowledge of secret meetings and hidden communication. Michael did not react emotionally, he simply observed and noted. Every confession, every nervous glance, every hesitated word became part of a larger plan. The audience experiences suspense, feeling the tension rise as the manipulator's network begins to collapse. Michael then began carefully exposing Sarah and Richard in small, controlled ways. He referenced small inconsistencies in casual conversation, allowed reactions to be observed, and ensured that nothing seemed like direct confrontation. Sarah's nervous energy grew constant, her voice sometimes quivering. Richard's calm mask faltered, revealing frustration, insecurity, and fear. Allies wavered, sometimes whispering admissions or avoiding eye contact. The tension was cinematic, each moment a building block for the inevitable confrontation. Despite the pressure, Michael remained composed. He understood that victory required patience, not impulsive action. Every step was calculated, every revelation timed. His son's safety and emotional well-being remained the priority, even as Michael maneuvered carefully to dismantle lies and expose deception. These moments of calm in the midst of chaos created contrast, making the suspense even more compelling for viewers. As Michael gained control, the manipulators became increasingly desperate. Sarah tried to redirect conversations, to mask her panic, but small slips betrayed her. Richard attempted to regain authority, but Michael's preparation left no room for manipulation. The domino effect was clear, every lie exposed, every nervous reaction, every hesitant ally contributed to the weakening of their power. The audience experiences both suspense and satisfaction, eager to see the manipulator's eventual downfall. Finally, Michael began laying the groundwork for a direct confrontation. It would not be rushed or reckless. It would be methodical, timed, and undeniable. He would reveal the truth with proof that could not be disputed. He would dismantle Sarah and Richard's control piece by piece, and their allies would be forced to acknowledge the deception. The suspense was almost unbearable, the audience felt the slow but inevitable approach of exposure. Through it all, Michael's bond with his son remained central. The child saw patience, strength, and integrity, rather than anger or chaos. Shared games, stories, and quiet moments provided a grounding contrast to the tension, creating an emotional core for the story. The audience could relate, understanding that the stakes were not only revenge but also the protection of innocence and the restoration of life and trust. Michael Turner had learned to stay silent, to watch, to notice things that others overlooked. The morning he followed Sarah, he discovered a world he had never imagined. A world of secrets, whispers, and hidden alliances. At first, it had felt like a shock too heavy to bear. But as the days passed, he realized that he could either be a victim or take control. He chose control. Every day, Michael observed quietly. He took note of Sarah's sudden trips, her phone calls made in hushed tones, the small changes in her routine. He watched Richard, the man who had wormed his way into their lives, and noticed small signs of nervousness under the mask of charm. It was in the tilt of his head, the slight trembling of his hand when he held a glass, the way he repeated his words when unsure. Michael catalogued every detail, every gesture, every conversation that hinted at deception. But while the storm of betrayal raged in the background, Michael never let it touch his son. The boy remained the center of his universe. Morning stories, games, shared laughter, they were sacred. These moments kept Michael grounded. They reminded him of why he was fighting, why patience and strategy mattered more than rage or confrontation. The audience immediately feels the stakes. This is not just a story of betrayal, it is a story about protecting family, love, and innocence in the midst of chaos. Michael also began testing Sarah and Richard indirectly. He asked small questions, casual remarks, sometimes seemingly random comments, all designed to gauge reactions. Sarah's confident demeanor began to crack. A flicker of nervousness, a hesitation, a glance toward Richard, these subtle cues told Michael everything he needed to know. Richard, on the other hand, tried to maintain composure but began showing cracks too. The man's usual smoothness faltered under Michael's quiet scrutiny. While Michael moved carefully, he began documenting evidence. Hidden messages, financial transactions, and secret meetings were recorded. Michael had become meticulous, almost surgical in his observation. He understood that proof, not emotion, would ultimately dismantle the manipulator's power. Every small detail could become a weapon in his silent strategy. Allies who had once seemed loyal began to falter. Friends, acquaintances, even colleagues who had unknowingly or deliberately supported Sarah and Richard's schemes began revealing cracks under subtle pressure. Michael noticed every twitch, every pause, every nervous glance. Some spoke too much, others too little, but every deviation confirmed the web of lies he had been unraveling. The audience can feel the suspense build, every reaction could reveal a new piece of the truth. One day, Michael decided to test Sarah further. He casually mentioned a detail about Richard, something only someone involved would know. Sarah flinched ever so slightly. Her eyes darted to Richard, searching for reassurance. Richard's face stiffened, and he paused before responding. The network of deception was fragile, and Michael could feel it beginning to tremble. Each small victory became part of a larger strategy. The audience is drawn into this moment, sensing the tension, feeling the slow, deliberate unraveling of a carefully constructed facade. Michael also began to plan interactions that would naturally expose the manipulators. Casual gatherings, social outings, even minor conversations became opportunities to reveal truths without confrontation. He did not raise his voice. He did not yell. He let the reactions speak for themselves. Allies who had supported deception faltered. Sarah's rehearsed composure cracked in subtle ways. Richard attempted to redirect attention, but the weight of Michael's quiet observation rendered him powerless. Even as he orchestrated these subtle exposures, Michael remained deeply connected to his son. In the evenings, he shared lessons about courage, patience, and truth. These moments were more than just bonding, they were symbolic of the life Michael was trying to restore. The boy's presence reminded the audience of the stakes. Every plan, every strategic move, was designed to protect innocence and restore honesty to a world clouded by lies. Michael's meticulous approach began to pay off. Minor allies who had once shielded Sarah and Richard now showed signs of fear. Some whispered confessions when left alone, others faltered under casual questions. Every hesitation, every nervous glance, was documented, analyzed, and integrated into the next move. Michael's strategy was simple in concept but powerful in execution: observe, record, and act at the precise moment. The suspense builds naturally as the manipulator's confidence begins to crumble. The tension escalated as Michael introduced small confrontations. Not direct accusations, but subtle references and casual mentions that forced reactions. Sarah's laughter faltered, her explanations grew shaky, and she became increasingly aware of Michael's quiet observation. Richard, sensing the shift, attempted to assert control. He spoke louder, gestured more confidently, but Michael remained calm. The evidence, collected meticulously over weeks, was undeniable. The audience senses every beat of tension, every micro-reaction, as the manipulator's power begins to fade. Michael orchestrated moments where Sarah and Richard could not hide. Public or semi-public situations were arranged to let reactions surface naturally. Casual mentions of inconsistencies, subtle hints at meetings, small revelations in conversations, they all contributed to a growing pressure that the manipulators could not escape. Sarah's nervous glances became more frequent, Richard's composure faltered, and their allies struggled to maintain silence. The suspense was cinematic. The audience could feel the inevitability of exposure building with every interaction. The first significant victory came when Michael quietly confronted a minor ally, someone who had unknowingly helped Sarah and Richard. By asking casual but pointed questions, he revealed the truth without a scene. The ally, nervous and unsure, admitted to what they knew. Michael did not gloat, he simply observed and noted. Every confession, every slip, added to the momentum. The manipulator's network was weakening, and the audience could sense the slow but unstoppable collapse. Throughout all this, Michael remained calm, collected, and deliberate. He did not act out of rage or desperation. He understood that true victory would come from strategy and patience. The emotional stakes, his son, the life he wanted to reclaim, remained central. These moments created tension and engagement, keeping the audience invested not just in the unraveling of deceit, but in the restoration of life, trust, and family. As Michael's control grew, so did his confidence. He began subtly exposing Sarah and Richard in interactions where they could not hide. Casual remarks, small facts revealed to the right people, hints at knowledge yet unshared, every action was calculated to maximize the pressure. Sarah's panic became more frequent. Richard's frustration grew. Allies faltered, whispered admissions, and hesitant glances revealed the depth of complicity. Michael's calm authority contrasted sharply with the chaos surrounding the manipulators, heightening drama and suspense. Michael Turner had changed. The man who once trusted blindly, who believed in the routines of a quiet life, had become someone alert, watchful, and determined. After discovering Sarah's secret meetings with Richard, he had spent weeks observing, noting, and quietly gathering proof. Now, he was ready to move beyond observation. Every small act of deception, every lie, every hidden alliance was now evidence in his mind. But Michael knew this had to be done carefully. Impulsive confrontation could ruin everything. He started his days with his son, keeping their routines untouched. Breakfasts, short walks, bedtime stories, they remained sacred. These moments were his anchor, a reminder of what truly mattered. Michael knew he could not let his son feel the storm that had entered their lives. It was more than revenge, it was about protecting his child and restoring their life to safety and stability. The audience immediately feels the stakes. This isn't just a story of betrayal, it's about family, love, and justice. Sarah's behavior was changing. She laughed nervously at times, her confident voice faltering in casual conversations. Her eyes shifted constantly, glancing at Richard, seeking reassurance. Richard, in turn, appeared increasingly tense, his calm demeanor slipping in subtle ways, a hand trembling slightly, a pause too long, words repeated in hesitation. Michael observed them all with precision. He began to notice allies who had once stayed silent start to show cracks. Friends who had helped Sarah or Richard, either out of fear or loyalty, now revealed signs of guilt or confusion. Every slip, every hesitation was a piece of the puzzle Michael had been waiting to solve. He decided to act subtly. Instead of confrontations, he created situations where the truth would become visible without seeming forced. Casual conversations, small gatherings, and routine interactions were now opportunities to expose deception. Michael would reference small facts, quietly watch reactions, and note every glance or gesture. Sarah's nervous energy became almost constant. Richard attempted to maintain authority, but Michael's calm precision rendered him ineffective. Allies who had once supported deception either faltered or openly admitted minor truths, creating a domino effect that slowly dismantled the network. The tension in Michael's life grew, but so did his clarity. He began arranging encounters that forced Sarah and Richard into uncomfortable positions. He allowed certain truths to surface in public or semi-public moments, making it impossible for them to cover lies. Sarah's careful rehearsals of confidence fell apart under subtle pressure. She stammered, shifted in her seat, and looked to Richard, whose own cracks had become obvious. The audience experiences suspense here, the manipulators are unraveling, and every moment is a small victory in a long game. Michael's strategy relied on patience and psychological precision. He introduced hints, small pieces of evidence, and strategic questions that exposed reactions without direct accusation. Friends who had helped Sarah or Richard in secret began faltering. Some whispered confessions, others attempted to divert attention, but the weight of Michael's quiet but undeniable evidence created tension they could not control. The story builds suspense with every glance, pause, and nervous gesture. The audience feels like they are watching the collapse happen in real time. Despite the tension, Michael never let anger guide him. He remained calm and deliberate, knowing that the ultimate exposure required intelligence rather than confrontation. His son remained the center of his world. In quiet evenings, he read stories, played small games, and shared lessons of resilience and courage. These moments of tenderness grounded the narrative, balancing suspense with emotional depth. The audience could relate, seeing that Michael's fight was not for revenge alone but to protect what he loved most. As the network of deception weakened, Michael began preparing for direct confrontations. He didn't rush, but he tested Sarah and Richard repeatedly. Casual remarks, innocent questions, and indirect hints revealed cracks. Sarah's nervous laughter became panic, her eyes darted more frequently, her explanations faltered. Richard, once composed, grew defensive, repeated himself, and occasionally snapped in frustration, a rare glimpse of vulnerability that Michael had anticipated. Allies, forced to react under pressure, either confessed quietly or showed fear that confirmed their knowledge of the truth. The first major victory came when Michael exposed a piece of evidence during a casual gathering. He referenced financial inconsistencies, subtly highlighted secret messages, and allowed reactions to surface naturally. Sarah's composure broke. Her laughter faded into panic. Richard attempted to redirect attention, but his words were hollow against the weight of proof. Allies began whispering, hesitant and guilty. Every small reaction was a confirmation, Michael's strategy was working, and the manipulator's control was slipping. The suspense escalated naturally, keeping the audience on edge. Michael's careful orchestration allowed him to expose small lies before revealing the larger network of manipulation. Friends who had unknowingly assisted now faced consequences. Minor admissions created cracks that grew wider with every observation. Sarah tried to regain control, but every word, glance, or hesitation she displayed added to the tension. Richard's efforts at authority faltered completely. The manipulators were being dismantled, piece by piece, in a controlled and deliberate fashion that was both satisfying and suspenseful. Throughout, Michael maintained the emotional core of the story. His son remained safe, experiencing calm, strength, and love rather than chaos. The audience felt both the suspense of the manipulations unraveling and the warmth of family moments. This balance is critical in making the story YouTube-friendly. Viewers remain emotionally invested while experiencing high tension and curiosity. As Michael's confidence grew, so did his strategy. He began planning situations where Sarah and Richard could not hide, where their reactions would be undeniable. Casual encounters, chance meetings, and subtle presentations of proof forced them to confront the reality of their lies. Sarah's panic was now constant. Richard's composure had all but vanished. Allies who had supported the deception now faltered completely. Michael's calm, methodical approach created a stark contrast against the chaos, making every moment cinematic and gripping. The climax of Part 3 arrived when Michael orchestrated a final, strategic confrontation. Evidence was revealed in a way that could not be denied. Documents, messages, and recorded actions were presented calmly but clearly. Sarah's nervousness turned into outright panic, her carefully maintained mask crumbling. Richard tried to assert control, but Michael's precision left him powerless. The manipulators were now exposed publicly, their network of lies dismantled piece by piece. Every gesture, every word, every hesitation was visible to the audience, creating high suspense and shock value. Michael's victories were personal as well as strategic. Each exposure brought him closer to reclaiming his life. The lies that had once controlled his home and his world were now visible to all. Allies who had attempted to protect deception faced their own consequences. Michael's calm strength highlighted the contrast between intelligence and impulsive reaction, demonstrating that careful observation and patience could restore control, dignity, and security. Michael Turner had reached the point where patience and observation became his greatest strengths. What had begun as a simple life, a small apartment, quiet mornings with his son, the hum of routine, had been shattered by betrayal. He had discovered that Sarah, the woman he had trusted completely, was hiding secrets with Richard, a man who had insinuated himself into their lives with charm and manipulation. The discovery had hit Michael like a storm, leaving him stunned and uncertain, but he quickly realized that reacting impulsively would only strengthen the manipulators. Instead, Michael chose strategy. He observed quietly, noting every small gesture, every half-truth, every nervous glance. He watched Sarah's actions closely, tracking her secret meetings and whispered phone calls. He noted Richard's subtle maneuvers to assert control, his smooth words designed to distract, deflect, and manipulate perception. Michael understood that exposing them required more than anger, it required precision, planning, and patience. Every move had to be calculated, every step measured, and every opportunity carefully timed. Amid this, Michael's son remained his anchor. He could not allow the child to feel the storm of betrayal that had engulfed his home. Morning routines became sacred, reading together, playing small games, sharing laughter and quiet conversation. These moments provided Michael with perspective and focus, reminding him that the battle he was preparing was not just about exposing deceit but protecting the life and innocence of his child. The audience immediately connects to these moments, feeling both the tension of betrayal and the warmth of familial love, heightening emotional engagement. Michael began implementing subtle but strategic tests to confirm the extent of Sarah and Richard's deception. He asked casual questions, inserted small remarks into conversations, and watched for hesitation or nervous glances. Sarah's confidence began to waver. The perfectly rehearsed lies she had relied on for months now faltered under the weight of scrutiny. Richard, who had always exuded control, betrayed small signs of panic, a tapping finger, a trembling tone, a pause too long before replying. Allies who had once silently supported the manipulators also began to falter, some slipping in conversations, others revealing hints of knowledge they wished to conceal. As days passed, Michael carefully set up situations where the truth would be undeniable. Casual gatherings, routine conversations, even chance encounters became opportunities to reveal evidence. Documents, messages, and small pieces of financial proof were introduced in ways that seemed natural, forcing Sarah, Richard, and their allies to react under pressure. The panic in Sarah's eyes, the hesitation in Richard's voice, and the nervous fidgeting of their supporters all confirmed that Michael's approach was working. Every reaction became a visual cue for suspense, drawing the audience deeper into the narrative. Michael's calm and calculated approach contrasted sharply with the growing tension around him. While Sarah tried to maintain her composure, it was increasingly clear that she was losing control. The lies she had told, once hidden behind charm and quick thinking, now surfaced as undeniable truths. Richard attempted to manipulate perception, trying to regain authority and credibility, but Michael's quiet confidence and strategic exposure left no room for deflection. Each confrontation, each subtle reveal, and each slip by the manipulators escalated suspense, making viewers feel as though they were witnessing a slow but inevitable unraveling of deceit. The psychological tension reached a peak as Michael involved allies in a controlled exposure. Friends and acquaintances who had previously remained silent now found themselves implicated. Their nervous reactions, whispered confessions, and defensive gestures added layers of drama to the unfolding story. Michael's approach was methodical. He did not attack impulsively but allowed the manipulators' own mistakes and guilt to dismantle the network they had built. The audience experiences suspense and shock with every slip, understanding that the unraveling is both inevitable and satisfying. Despite the intensity, Michael remained emotionally grounded. He ensured his son was shielded from the chaos, witnessing only calm authority and quiet strength. Shared moments of play, bedtime routines, and heartfelt conversations reinforced the father-son bond, reminding viewers of what is at stake beyond revenge. The emotional depth of these interactions creates engagement and relatability, making the audience care about the outcome on a personal level. The climax of Michael's strategy came when he confronted Sarah and Richard directly, but with precision rather than anger. He presented the evidence calmly, in a way that could not be denied. Sarah's nervous laughter turned to panic, her words faltering as each lie was exposed. Richard tried to regain composure, to manipulate perception and assert control, but Michael's evidence was overwhelming, his calm authority unshakable. Allies who had attempted to shield the manipulators were forced to acknowledge the truth. The tension was palpable, cinematic, and emotionally gripping, designed to keep viewers on the edge of their seats. Michael's victories were not just strategic, they were deeply personal. Each revelation brought him closer to reclaiming the life that had been disrupted. Sarah and Richard were forced to confront consequences publicly, their authority shattered and their manipulative power destroyed. Michael's calm intelligence highlighted the contrast between control and chaos, allowing viewers to experience the satisfaction of justice served without resorting to melodrama. Throughout the unfolding resolution, the father-son relationship remained central. Michael's child saw a father reclaiming life with strength, patience, and integrity. The lessons of resilience, courage, and the importance of truth were subtly imparted through quiet interactions and shared experiences. These moments of emotional resonance balance the suspense, creating a narrative that is both thrilling and heartfelt. As the manipulators' network fully unraveled, Michael's life began to regain its rhythm. Sarah and Richard's lies had been exposed to all who had once witnessed or aided them. Friends and acquaintances were forced to acknowledge their complicity, and the manipulative web they had woven could no longer hold. Michael had reclaimed control, not only over his environment but over his emotional world. The audience experiences a sense of relief, satisfaction, and triumph, seeing justice achieved and life restored. The story's conclusion emphasizes empowerment and resolution. Michael stands as a figure of patience, intelligence, and moral strength, demonstrating that careful observation, strategic action, and emotional integrity can overcome even the most calculated deception. His son's life is protected, their bond strengthened, and the family's future secured. The audience is left with a sense of closure, inspired by Michael's resilience and impressed by the meticulous way justice unfolded. In the end, the story is about more than betrayal and exposure. It is about hope, strategy, and love. It shows that even when life is disrupted by deception, calmness, patience, and careful planning can restore balance. Michael's journey demonstrates that strength comes not from impulsive reaction, but from understanding, timing, and the courage to act decisively when the moment is right. His life, rebuilt on honesty and vigilance, serves as a lesson that truth and integrity ultimately prevail, leaving viewers inspired, shocked by the betrayal, and deeply satisfied by the resolution. Michael Turner's story closes with him and his son walking together, no longer overshadowed by lies or fear. The manipulators have been exposed, the network dismantled, and life has returned to stability. What had been stolen is reclaimed, not through anger, but through intelligence, patience, and love. The narrative leaves the audience reflecting on trust, resilience, and the power of quiet, calculated strength, making it ideal for a YouTube story that captivates, inspires, and encourages sharing.